So how do you set realistic goals and deadlines as a writer that will help you further your author career? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Iris Marsh. I'm an editor and a writer, and I help authors with their manuscripts so that they can publish their books with confidence. So in this video, we'll go over some steps that you can use to create realistic goals for your writing and attach deadlines to them so that you can move from idea creation to a published manuscript. So especially with NaNoWriMo around the corner, it's important that you set effective goals and realistic goals. And if you want to be or are a self-published author, you need to be the one to set those goals and deadlines, because there's no publisher who's going to hound you and ask you for when your first draft is going to be delivered, right? You need to do that yourself. And when you set clear and actionable goals within a reasonable time frame, so they're realistic, you'll create a regular writing habit, and that will lead you to publishing your book. So let's have a look. Okay, so step 1 is to decide on your major goal. And likely this will be publishing your book. However, you can also think more long-term. So for instance, if you want to publish a trilogy or a series, or you can even set a different type of goal. For instance, for your marketing, like growing your readership or increasing the income from your book. But for the sake of this video, we're going to focus on the major goal of publishing your book. Then once you've decided on your major goal, you want to break it down into smaller goals or steps, if you will. And don't just break it down into these smaller parts, but also attach a certain time frame to each step. So here you can see an example of what that might look like. So for instance, here we start with characterization and we want to complete that within 1 week, then world building, outlining, the first draft within 3 months, a revision, first revision, developmental editor, finding a cover designer, researching metadata, and so on. And that will give you an idea of how long it might take. Which leads us to step 3, which is creating the actual timeline. So once you've decided on your different steps and how long you think each step will take, each goal, you can create the timeline. And some tasks will probably overlap. So for instance, while your manuscript is with the developmental editor or a different type of editor, you can also find and hire a cover designer or work on the metadata and all of that. So for this step, you look again at each of the goals you've written down and attach a specific date to it. So for instance, if you start the goal of finishing characterization on the 1st of November, then you would expect to have finished by the 8th of November, so you finish on the 7th. And then this becomes your deadline for that specific goal or step within the process. So here in the example, you can also see, like I said, that when you have it at the editor, if you estimate this taking 2 months, 1st of April until 31st of May, you can also use that time to do a different type of step, like finding a cover designer, 1st of April to 7th of April, and so on. Then for step 4, we break it into even smaller goals. Yes. So each task within your timeline can then be broken down into even smaller steps. So that's useful so that you can create daily and weekly goals as well that you can track. So for instance, if we have the goal for characterization within a week, then we might say one of the steps is to create the main character profile, and we will do this on the 1st and the 2nd of November. So we'll finish it on the 2nd of November. Then we'll create the profile for the villain. We do this the 3rd and the 4th of November, and then we create some profiles for important side characters, and we do this the rest of the week. And that will give you some indication as to what your smaller steps are, so that when you arrive at that point you will know what to do and within which time frame you're estimating to do it. And when you're writing your first draft, I would advise to break it down into monthly, weekly, and daily word count goals, because this will be the biggest chunk of time you will spend on a given goal or task. Or when you're working on your revisions, you can adapt this to a scene or chapter goal instead of a word count goal. So, for instance, for your first draft, let's say you want to write a standard fiction novel of around 80k words, and you want to do it within 3 months, so around 90 days, then you should have a word count of I suck with pronouncing numbers, 26,667 words each month. And then that also means you have to write around 6,222 words a week. If you want to write for 5 days a week, say, then this means you should write 1,245 words each day that you're writing. And then you can have a look at this and see, well, is this manageable for me? If you know approximately how many words you can write within any given time frame. Like, do you have enough time to reach these daily goals, these weekly goals, and these monthly goals? If not, can you extend the time frame? Or is there a way that you can write more days a week, so you don't have to write as many words each day that you're writing? Or is there a way for you to find more time within the day to write? So once you've broken down each of these medium tasks into smaller tasks, you will have a list of daily, weekly, and monthly and overall goals with added deadlines. And this will help you also see if you've estimated your time frame correctly. For instance, you might think, for instance, with the first draft, like, there's no way I can find extra time, and I just don't think I can hit this daily word count. And then you can extend the time frame a bit. For instance, instead of 3 months, you make it 4 months, just to give yourself that extra time, and then you just have to adjust the rest of your goals as well to fit within that time frame. And then once you have your schedule with goals and deadlines and all of that, it's time to actually do the work. And while you're completing your goals and going through your list, it's a good thing to reevaluate your goals each week or each month and ask if you are meeting your goals, and if you aren't, why aren't you meeting your goals? Is it a lack of time, or have you misjudged the time that you actually need, or perhaps something happened within your life that caused you to not have as much time to allocate to this project than you initially thought. Like, there can be all sorts of reasons. And, if you need more time to hit a certain goal, there's nothing wrong with adjusting the time frame. Like, this setting of goals and deadlines is flexible, and you can give yourself more time to hit a goal. That's completely fine. It's not a failure. Sometimes we just need more time than we think. Usually we need more time than we think we do. And this way, your goals will be realistic and manageable for your time schedule. So, it might be tough if you really want to publish your book within a year or perhaps even sooner. But it's perfectly fine if it takes longer than that, especially if you're just starting out as a writer and you've never published a book before, or if you've just published one book. Then you just need more time to really write a quality book, and that's fine. And some genres are also a bit quicker to write and plot than others, like depending on the complexity you add to it or not. And some people also just write faster or slower than others, and there's really no comparison there. You just have to take it at your own pace. It really won't help you to rush through the process just to meet your deadlines, just to get your book out, if it will harm the quality of your book. Because that's the goal also. You don't just want to publish a book, right? You want to publish a book of good quality that readers will actually love. Then the final step is celebrate your wins and add consequences. It's really important that you celebrate your wins to stay positive and motivated. So if you meet your weekly goal, celebrate. And if you hit an even bigger goal, celebrate even more. It doesn't really matter how you celebrate, whether it's just like me time, going out for drinks, buying a nice book, doing a victory dance, or even just reflecting on, awesome, I did this, I kick ass. It doesn't really matter as long as you have this moment where you recognize that you're killing it. But if you find that you're procrastinating and aren't hitting your goals consistently, and it's not because you need to adjust your time frame, you've just been neglecting doing the work, then it might be time to put some consequences in place, because sometimes they're necessary to motivate people to actually hit their deadlines, especially if they're deadlines that you've set yourself, right? So for instance, you can go on the web to a writing group and find an accountability partner, and then you can motivate each other to finish and complete your tasks on your set deadlines. Because that way it's much harder to procrastinate when you have to explain to someone that you're procrastinating, because there's a bit of that feeling of shame when you have to do that, and that can be very motivating sometimes. You can also go on social media and announce to all your followers that you want to finish your first draft, for instance, on a certain date, and then give regular updates. Because this way, even when no one will care whether or not you will hit your own deadlines, you will care because you've told people you were going to do this. And if that does not help either, you might need some stronger consequences. So you can also attach something negative for not finishing a task. So for instance, if you don't finish a medium-sized step, you have to do something that you dislike, and then you tell a friend so they can actually hold you accountable to doing it. Or you can send money to a charity that you hate, and again, let your friends know that you're doing this, and let the friend do this so that it actually happens and you can't really get out of it. If that's the kind of motivation that you need to finish and actually do the work, then sometimes that's what's necessary. If you finish these steps and follow them, you should be able to set your goals and finish your book. I'll also put a link into my first draft writing planner that will help you set goals and review your timeline and more while you're writing your first draft or when you're doing your revisions. And when you get to the editing stage of the process, you can also have a look at my free self-editing mini course, where you'll learn the basics of each of the editing types and some tips and tricks on how you can do some of the editing yourself. And if you enjoyed this video, as always, please hit the like button and subscribe to stay updated for more content. And if you have any questions about this video or any other writing related questions, feel free to reach out and I will see you next time.